All right, I am live. Welcome to the live stream. How's everybody out there doing? Oh, I got 3 new members already. Mm. Thank you for becoming a member, CH Liu. Lazarus has become a member, and so has what's his head in the clouds. Thank you. Stace on the case. Hey, what's going on? Hello from Texas. What's going on? So just so we're clear what's going on. Um, so this for members on the channel generally get videos that are produced, so the produced videos they get earlier, and they also get like rough cuts of videos that sometimes don't make it to publish, and sometimes, and I also have some outtakes that I'm going to be sharing with some too. So members get all of those benefits, and one of the other benefits that we're extending to members going forward is a monthly live stream in which it'll be just the members only chat, so the members can speak, and everyone can watch the video, but we're limiting just the chat for members. So this is a once a month thing, so members can be free to argue and tell me where I'm wrong or where I'm right. And that is what we're going to be doing today. But tomorrow, we're going to have another just basic live stream. I'm covering some of the same topics. We're going to go a little bit more into the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. And then we're going to be switching over to Rockfin and watching some of the crazy police stuff that's happening here in New York. And we're going to be reviewing all the Comic Con trailers tomorrow on Rockfin. So tomorrow we'll start with some more Amber Heard, Johnny Depp stuff here on YouTube. Then we'll be switching to Rockfin for later on. So that's the plan for today. Now, I don't expect there to be too many people here because this is a members only live stream, but we'll be talking about some interesting stuff. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Stays on the case. I feel so special. I'm surprised you're not in Houston. I was just in Houston a little while ago, but now I'm back in New York. So, but I'm going to be out of New York soon and be headed down to Florida. So if you're in Florida, I'm going to be down there. All right. So here we go. All right. So let's talk about the first thing that I want to talk about today is obviously Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So there's something interesting that's happening with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. They both have appealed. So let me first start by asking a question to all of you out there. Why did Johnny Depp appeal the verdict? Right? Most people say, well, he won. He won. Well, why would he appeal? And I want to make it very clear why he appealed. So we're going to talk about the why he appealed and why it makes sense and all that type of stuff. So I want to definitely get into that. Oh my god, oh my god, I'm the only one talking. We're in Florida. I'm going to be going to Disney World, so I'll be in Disney World, Ian. Oh, thanks for becoming a member. Why not? Well, again, this is why we do the members only chat, so you guys can have a little bit easier time talking directly to me. All right, so let's talk about the appeal. So Johnny Depp is also appealing, and Johnny Depp filed a notice of appeal, and Amber Heard filed a notice of appeal. So let us talk about. Let me turn this fan speed down so it's not so loud, as it is. Oops. Fan speed. Oh, that's fan only. Cool. And then fan speed. So I want to turn the fan on my AC down because it's screaming in my ear. I might have to change my filter too. All right. So let's talk about. So let's start with a quick recap. I have notes here, so I'm going to be reading off my notes. Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard for defamation, and Amber Heard then sued Johnny Depp for defamation in what's known as a countersuit. So Johnny Depp sued her for defamation. She then sued him for the same thing. Now, after the 6-week trial, we all know what happened, right? Depp was awarded $10.35 million in damages. Amber Heard was awarded $2 million in damages. Now, that's important. Amber Heard did win $2 million for her defamation claim, and Johnny Depp won $10 million for his defamation claim. Now, Amber Heard and her lawyers have been saying they were going to appeal. Right after the judgment came down, they were out there saying, we're going to appeal, we're going to appeal, we're going to appeal. And then they filed notice of appeal. Nate just became a member. Have been watching you since the Chauvin trial. Love your content. I'm trying to become a lawyer in Canada currently, and learning about the American system is fascinating. Well, good luck. Good luck, because the American system is a little crazy, but it's. I'll say this: I love practicing, and I love figuring out problems within the law. So it's it's great when you're able to do it and you're able to love it. And I always say this: do what you love. I love this. That's why you see that's why I'm able to go into the weeds and tell you things that other commentators don't know, because I'm an academic. I read this stuff all the time. So you have to have a passion for this, and I do. I have a passion for this. So Amber Heard and her lawyers have been saying, we're going to appeal. We're going to appeal. They were on Dateline. They weren't everywhere. We're going to appeal. We're going to appeal. So recently, and you guys saw maybe a couple of days ago, or was it last week? Whenever, that Amber essentially filed her what's called a notice of appeal. Now, that wasn't the actual appeal, but it was just saying, hey, we are going to appeal, and we're giving the court notice that we're going to appeal, and Johnny Depp's side, we're going to appeal. Here's the official notice. And that appeal is obviously, that notice for appeal is to overturn the $10.35 million judgment, Johnny Depp's judgment. Now, during the appeals process, now this is where everyone's getting confused. Now, I'm going to try to break it down. I know there's some lawyers saying one thing, some lawyers saying another thing. This is what it is. I don't care what anybody else is telling you. This is what it is. So, during the appeals process, right, Amber Heard is going to appeal, and during that process of her appealing, Johnny Depp can execute his $10.35 million judgment. That means he can go and start collecting on that money, what's owed to him. So the way Virginia does it is that they don't allow somebody to just sit back and wait. They just don't allow you just to sit back and wait during the appeals process. Because if I won the trial, right? Let's think about this trial. It's been about 2 years for Johnny Depp to get the trial, and then after a 6-week trial, you've won. So just if someone could just appeal and hold your money up for another 2 years, that wouldn't be fair to you, right? That wouldn't be fair to you. So Virginia says, okay, well, listen, if you appeal, you got to give that money up, right? You can't just now keep holding it up, because like 90% of appeals don't even work anyway. So why are we going to hold up the plaintiff's money, the guy who won money, to somebody who doesn't, why should we hold his money up for an appeal that likely is not going to win? So Virginia says, okay, if you don't want the person to collect, put up an appeal bond, put up what's known as what's known as a suspension bond. So essentially, if Amber wants to stop Johnny Depp from collecting that 10.35 million, she can do it by posting what's known as a suspension bond. And the suspension bond is essentially what it says. You're asking for the court to suspend Johnny from being able to collect that money. Now, to do this, right, to stop Johnny from being able to collect during the appeals process, Amber would have to put up the full $10.35 million plus 6% interest. And she's got to give that to the court, and the court's going to hold that. And when the court holds that money, it's essentially whoever wins the appeal gets that cash. Whoever wins that appeal gets that cash. And Amber does not. Amber would not, like, all right, so whoever wins the appeal gets that cash, and Johnny would not be able to then do all this, to execute the judgment on Amber, because the money's already there. Now, Amber's attorney's already said she don't got that money. So I don't think she's putting up an appeal bond. But a lot of people were saying in commentary that Amber, and I want to be very clear, a lot of people were conflating this thing, that Amber Heard needed to post the $10.35 million to be able to appeal. And that's not the case. She's able to appeal whether or not she posts that $10.35 million. But whether Johnny Depp is able to collect that money from her or execute that judgment against her, that's what the appeal bond is. So that I think was the amount of confusion that was going on out there. Now, I want to be very clear. Amber does not have to pay that $10.35 million to the court for the appeal. She only has to post that amount to stop Johnny from collecting on the judgment. But now, a lot of the commentators, hey, Michelle, thank you for becoming a member. A lot of the commentators for this issue have forgotten one thing. Amber has a $2 million judgment against Johnny Depp. So she's got 2 million, she's got a judgment too. And this leads us back to the question I kind of posed at the beginning of this conversation, is that why did Johnny Depp appeal? Well, that's because Amber has a $2 million judgment against him. And there is a chance, even though I think it's a small chance, I don't think it's really going to happen, that Amber Heard can lose Amber Heard can win, I should say. There is a small chance Amber Heard can win her appeal. And let's say get a new trial or get it overturned. And if that happens, let's say that was to happen, if Amber Heard won her appeal, then you could have a scenario where Amber Heard gets a new trial and Johnny's $10.35 million judgment is gone. But if Johnny but in this scenario, if Johnny doesn't appeal her judgment, her $2 million judgment, then she would still be good. She would still have the $2 million judgment. So his 10.3 would be gone, and then she can start collecting on her judgment, right? And if you don't appeal within a certain time, you waive that right. So Johnny essentially had no choice but to appeal the $2 million, because if she wins, then she would be able to collect the $2 million from him, and his $10 million would be gone. So strategically, essentially, he had to appeal her $2 million judgment soon as she put the notice in to appeal his judgment. So Depp's lawyers filed their notice of appeal the day after Amber's team filed her notice of appeal. They did it the next day. And that makes sense, right? It's like you do it on day one. The next day, I'm filing mine too, because I don't want to be left holding the bag. Now, it also comes down to the strength of these appeals. Both appeals, the strength of the appeals are interesting. I think Johnny Depp's appeal is stronger than Amber Heard's appeal, and for two reasons. Number one, I think Amber Heard's appeals are they're essentially First Amendment appeals, right? First Amendment, First Amendment, First Amendment, First Amendment, which are good, but I think a lot of those have been reconciled with the Virginia Supreme Court. So I think her appeal is a little weak in that sense. And obviously, she's going to throw in the jury stuff, and we've seen a little bit of her appeal in her post-trial motions, because that's essentially what that was. That was her appeal. That was her first shot at the appeal with the judge, and now she's going to go up. The second appeal part I want to talk about is Johnny Depp's appeal. I think his appeal has better legs to it, and the reason why, I think, is because Johnny Depp's appeal is about whether he can be held liable for an independent contractor's words. So essentially, the jury said Johnny Depp is being held liable for what Adam Waldman said, and Adam Waldman's an independent contractor. So that attachment of Johnny Depp's liability to someone else making a statement about him, that I think is a live issue. Now, the appeals court may say, hey, it's the jury is done, it's done. But I think that's a relevant legal issue that I think Johnny could win. But on the backside, I think Amber's appeal is weak. But again, appeals generally are for losers. So I wouldn't be surprised if both sides lost. But we'll see. Just imagine the irony. If Johnny Depp wins and Amber Heard loses the appeal, that would be interesting. Or the reverse. So this case is kind of far from over until the appeals court speaks, and you're going to have about another year with that. Thank you, Todd, for becoming a member. Let me look at some of these questions that we told. Hello from Mid-Coast, Maine. Hey, what's going on? Mid-Coast, Maine. Wow, that's awesome. I hope Johnny's team starts the process of getting his money. I was going to ask you guys that. I'm going to say this. If you were Johnny, would you collect? I would start collecting immediately, right? I would start collecting immediately. It would just make sense. If I was him, I would start collecting immediately. I take everything down to her last pair of TJ Maxx underwear. I think she did the TJ Maxx thing to try to show she didn't have any money. Oh my goodness. Oh, we know Amber Heard is got many lies. They both deserve a public flogging for being idiot children in large bodies who have pot-laced insane amounts of resources on a petty domestic dispute. Yeah, this is a domestic dispute. I bet Elaine hopes she never has to go before Judge Penny again. Oh, but she works that day, so she's going back. She's going before the Judge Penny again. Let's see. I would definitely collect. As you said, you're going to collect. Huh? She spent all of it on a $20,000 month mansion in VA. That's true. She was balling it out. Good morning. Oh, good morning, Betty. Yeah, I would collect. I would collect now too. Yeah, he should collect now. I would collect now too because that puts pressure on her. And let's think about this too. What about the insurance company? Do you think the insurance company? Because now the insurance company is like, yo, we want to get out of this, right? We don't want to pay nothing, right? She lost. You got Travelers who's already out $8 million. Then you have the other insurance company, New York Marine, she got $1 million policy with, but they're saying, well, she willfully did that. She did that intentionally. So why should we be in the hook for that? So, and then let's not forget you got to pay for lawyers still. You got to pay court fees. You got to pay for those transcripts, which is probably going to be between $50 and $100,000. So there's a lot of money involved in this appeal, right? On both sides. Another question I'd like to ask you guys: do you think Johnny should post the bond, the $2 million bond, or should he not? Because don't forget, Amber can still collect her $2 million from Johnny. Does Johnny post the bond with the 6%? Who knows, right? Would you? Now that's interesting, right? It's interesting because she owes you 10, you owe her 2, and she can kind of separately collect on your 2, and you trying to collect on her 10. It's like it's a weird situation, but that's Virginia law. So I don't know. And we've got some more stuff coming out about this case. Let me let you guys listen to this Kate Moss piece. So yesterday, Kate Moss did a radio interview with BBC, and she was talking about why essentially she testified on behalf of Johnny Depp. Now her testimony was like quick, right? They didn't even ask any questions. What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And she was there to dispel the rumor that Johnny Depp threw her down the stairs, because Amber Heard put it out there that, oh, I heard Kate Moss in the stairs, and automatically knew my sister was, protect my sister from being thrown down the stairs. So that's why they brought Kate Moss in, because they were like, she made the inference that Johnny Depp had thrown Kate Moss down the stairs. And then Kate Moss had to come and say, well, no, that there was no rumor, that absolutely didn't happen. I don't even know where she's got that from. So let me play Kate Moss's interview so you can see what she says. It's just a quick 1 minute thing. Like I said, not even 1 minute. Let me put this up so you guys can see it.
Industry supported you at the time, and you've done the same for them. In 2011, you backed your friend John Galliano after he was found guilty of racist abuse. You also testified on behalf of your former partner Johnny Depp in his recent libel trial. Those gestures could have backfired on you. What made you come out on their behalf?
I believe in the truth, and I believe in fairness and justice. I know that John Galliano is not a bad person. He had an alcohol problem, and people turn. People aren't themselves when they drink, and they say things that they would never say if they were sober. I know the truth about Johnny. I know he never kicked me down the stairs. I had to say that truth.
So that's it. She had to say that truth. And it's interesting because with the lies that Amber has told, right? The repeated lies and the multiple lies. It's fascinating to see that it's like the truth is something that you have to kind of fight for, right? In this instance, she had to, it's like there was some anxiety with telling the truth. And sometimes it just happens to be that way. The truth hurts. But in this case, she obviously did the right thing. In coming forward and saying, this obviously didn't happen. This woman's lying. And I think all the other lies, it's just made it even more appalling that she would lie about someone else's experience and turn something where Johnny Depp helped her into trying to make it seem like he was some monster and throwing her down the stairs. I think the judge in the UK denied his appeal. Yeah, they did. They denied his appeal, which was sick. She also lied about the poor child, her poor childhood too. I live in Texas, and I'm very nosy. Nosy. I think the calculus of domestic squabbles age is a bigger negative number, but look at the whole situation overall. They both are kids in large bodies. Oh, we read this already, and their maternity can't handle. There was something else because people asked the questions about Johnny. Because remember, I asked earlier whether Johnny should post the $2 million bond to stop from collecting. So let's also understand Johnny would have to post the 2 million, but also not only just the 2 million, he'd have to post 6% interest on top of that. So that's a big number, and per year. So, and if an appeal goes for 2 years, that money, and then let's say if the court says both lose, all right, Johnny loses his appeal, she loses her appeal, you're going to give her the $2 million. So there's a risk there, but Mimi says Johnny should definitely post the bond. And I think would I post the bond? I think it makes sense, right? You post the bond, she can't collect from you. And even if she wins, let's say she wins the appeal, she gets a 2 million. But then if you win your appeal, your side, if you win on your side, you get your 10 mil. So that she gets a 2 mil, but then you can just collect that instantly, right? You're like, well, give me my 2 million out of, you owe me 10. So that 2 plus the other 8. I don't know. It'd be an interesting way to work it. Now, generally, too, if the two sides were amicable, you'd come to some type of agreement. You'd come to some type of settlement. Like, okay, let's stop this 2 million, 10 million thing. It's 8 million. You don't post a bond. I'm not going to collect until after the appeal, and that's it, right? But I think it's too emotional. I don't think either side's going to do that. Johnny should post it, so she can't collect while appealing. Yeah, but I think he has that money to post. So I think I think you're probably right. Britt says members only unless super chat. You can't stop the signal, ma. Britt comment. Thank you so much. I didn't even know they allowed super chats during the members only. That's cool. Hey, but hey, that $5 is enough for a monthly membership. Let me see. I hope Mira gets eaten by a shark. Now, speaking about Mira, interesting. See, this is Stace on the case. Gave me a great transition. So recently, for those of you who don't know, well, you guys should know, I'm a huge Comic-Con fan. So I definitely want to bring you to this. So recently, let me put this on screen. So recently they had San Diego Comic-Con. And San Diego Comic-Con, now, for those of you who don't know, I'm assuming everybody understands what Comic-Con is and how Comic-Con does this thing. But I'm assuming now I got to remember, not everybody's a nerd like me. All right, so every year, for the big movies, Marvel, DC, all these other the studios, they go to the Comic-Con convention. They have one in San Diego, one in New York, but the San Diego Comic-Con is the biggest one. And they preview all their upcoming stuff, like all the upcoming movies they have, generally for this year, and for next year. But right now you're really looking at next year's stuff in 2023, because the 2022 summer blockbuster season is essentially over. So they're looking for stuff for the end of the year and then next year. So you're promoting stuff for next year. Now, Marvel did their whole thing. Now we know that there are 2 Avengers movies coming out soon and all that stuff. So they did their thing. But DC now, don't forget, you have the DCEU and the MCU. MCU did their thing. They put all the great stuff out, fine. But now the DCEU has 2 movies coming out. 2 of their biggest movies coming out next year. And everyone was surprised because in Comic-Con, generally you'd have new trailers, you'd have panels for these things, But this year, DC didn't do that, or Warner Brothers, which owns DC, didn't do that. And they believe that it's because of both Amber Heard and Ezra Miller. Now, with Amber Heard particularly, there's a petition with millions of signatures, like 4 or 5 million signatures, that's saying that they're not going to watch the movie if she is in the movie Aquaman 2, which is slated to come out next year. And second is that Ezra Miller. Now, obviously know Ezra Miller has the issues. He was actually fired from Warner Brothers, but they've already shot the movie, and the movie's in the tank. So you have these 2 movies slated to come out. So people expected to see something about these movies, but they can't, because Warner they didn't do anything. They literally kind of like hid them from. So here it is. So DC did have some um some stuff come out. Let me read this paragraph right here. This year the studio took a directly different approach. It skipped the show floor completely, including the presence of DC Comics. And while it did use its hour-long panel in Hall H to showcase two of its 2022 releases, Black Adam, that's with The Rock, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the studio's biggest movies for 2023, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, The Flash, were completely MIA. There was no mention of the other DC titles like Batgirl, expected to debut this year, Blue Beetle, the first Latino superhero film, nor on the future of Gal Gadot's about to say Superwoman, Wonder Woman, and Robert Pattinson's Batman. So, and obviously there's some issues with whether Superman, the guy who plays Superman, is going to come back. So they essentially just said, "Hey, we are not, we gotta get rid of this Amber Heard and Ezra Miller issue." Because let's think about it. If you're the studio, right? If you're the studio and you have these two people, one has been found to be lying in courts all around the world, lied about being a survivor, and is the abuser themselves. I'm talking about Amber Heard. And that person's in your movie. It's like, and then you got millions of people saying we're not going to watch the movie if she's in it. That's tough for her. And then we have Ezra Miller, who, we all know he's got someone, he's taken someone, and the parents are looking for them, and there's not warrants, there were two order protections against children for Ezra Miller. And Warner's Brothers already fired him, so they're in trouble. They got some issues. But what do you do? Like I'm asking you guys, what do you do? Because you've got two movies already essentially shot, millions of dollars already dumped into these projects. I think Aquaman, maybe you release with a different person, right? Maybe you have somebody reshoot those parts with Amber Heard, but the Flash movie, he is the Flash. Like, what do you do? He literally is the main character in the movie. Ugh, that's crazy. Do you just call it a loss? Do you send it directly to video? I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. But you got two people who are not good for PR. I can imagine their Q scores. Remember in the trial, the Q scores, their Q scores must be nothing. Hey Nate, is there a double date for paying? Is there a due date for paying the suspension bond? Yes, I'm not sure exactly what the date. There is a date you have to pay the suspension bond by. Can JD start collecting today? Yes, he can start collecting as soon as he got the judgment. How much of the judgment can he collect now? Well, he can collect the whole thing if it's possible. I'm assuming he can collect as soon as you get the judgment. You're trying to execute the judgment, so he could probably collect now. I'm assuming Johnny Depp. Well, it's weird because some of his people were saying that he wasn't going to collect on the judgment. He just wanted the piece of paper saying that he was good. But now with kind of all this stuff going around, I'm suspecting I would try to collect. I would go to Warner Brothers, where she's getting a check from here. Everywhere she's getting a check, I'd be sitting in that judgment. You owe me money. But we'll see. AH seems easy to replace. Ezra would have to reshoot everything. Yeah, I think Amber would be very easy to replace. I saw in the news a guy got dressed in mirror with an AH turd off the ground. Comic Con. Yeah, people are so cold. Britt, speaking of comics, I'm surprised that a few people I follow on YouTube covered Eric July's launch of the Rippaverse. Started his own comic book company and has over $3 million in orders. Yes. Eric July has been killing it. And everybody was laughing at him when he first put it out. Oh, it's not going to do nothing. But it's blown up. No, congratulations to Eric July. The comic series, everyone's got rave reviews on it. And essentially what he did, he said, well, let me make a comic book series about minority characters minus the wokeism. So essentially, just so everybody understands what Eric is doing. Eric is always he's been against the woke mob, right? And he says, and his thing is, why should we take established characters, Superman, Batman, and change them into something they're not? Why should we change Superman black, make him black? Why should we make him a part of the LGBT community? Why not make our own characters, give them a backstory, give them, make people fall in love with who these people are from their own origins, and then we can develop something, and develop that in that way. So you'll have like this two-pronged attack. So that's what he did. And he put his money where his mouth was and created that type of comic book where you have black characters who have their own origins, who are not, you're not changing Superman to be a black person. And it's been wildly successful, because what he did, he just kind of went back to the grassroots. Now, the comic book industry, I think, is a dying industry, right? But I think what he's done is shown that it could be not only successful, but it can make money. You can make money, because that's the big fear of Hollywood, right? If they give me a Captain America shield and put me on the screen, they know that there's a certain amount of income they can make because it's Captain America. But I think the risk is, can you make a new character that's not Captain America and that be profitable? And that's the fear. But Eric is showing that that's possible. Nate, they replaced Kevin Spacey in a fully shot movie, so there is precedent. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I don't know how you replace the Flash. The Flash. That's gonna be crazy. I picked up a copy of Eric July's Rippaverse on day one. Yeah, how was it? How was it, Betty? I'm assuming it was. From what I've been hearing, the reviews have been all out off the charts. I've not heard anybody say anything bad about that. I'm out of touch, honestly. Last comment, yeah, but you got to be in this world, in that space. It was interesting just to see kind of how the dynamics kind of played out. So, all right, so now we've I think we're done with so that's my update on the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing. I hope I help people understand what was going on with the appeal. There was some confusion with some of the attorneys, but now just to recap it, right? Because everybody keeps saying, Nate, you keep repeating. I just want to make sure, just to recap what we've already learned. So there are two judgments. Johnny's judgment of $10.3 million that he has, Amber's judgment of $2 million that she has. Both of them can collect from each other. Both of them can say, hey, I'm going to collect my money. I'm going to collect my money during the appeals process. The way you stop that is by issuing a suspension bond, where essentially you put the money up, give it to the court, and say, here's a $10.3 million. I don't want him to collect on that money. The court holds it, winner takes all. Now, and that's what we're doing here. But you do not. But Amber, the key point I want to make sure is Amber does not have to put the $10.35 million up to appeal. She doesn't have to do it. So this one, Mr. Stevie C. Elliot Page being considered to replace Ezra Miller as the Flash. That's interesting. That's interesting. I would like to see that dynamic, because don't forget, the Flash, even though that Flash is slim, but Flash still has a little muscle to it. I'd like to see how that works out. That would be my first pick, though. I would actually say the guy from the Flash TV show. That should be the guy, because that's the Flash, right? As a matter of fact, I think that Flash is a better Flash than Ezra Miller. But we'll see. We'll see. That would be an interesting place, but I don't know how successful that would be, because I don't know if I would like that too tough. All right, let's move on. You guys know, because since this is for the members, you guys know I'm a hardcore law guy. So now we're going to talk about the legal piece of Roe v. Wade, because I've gotten a lot of questions about Roe v. Wade being overturned. Excuse me. And something came out today that I wanted to watch with you guys. So this is from CNN, and so everybody understands Roe v. Wade was overturned, and we'll go over the reasons why it was overturned and the legal reasons, because again, this is a hard law piece to it. We're not going to talk about the emotions about it. We're really just going to talk about the legal reasoning behind it, and we're going to judge the legal perspective of it. So, I know this issue has a lot of emotion involved, and I can't deny that emotion exists. But what I do want to do is let you guys have an understanding of the topic from a unique legal perspective. So hopefully this will be interesting. So first I want to do is the Supreme Court. Now we know that the Supreme Court, there was an issue. John Roberts, Chief Justice, wanted to uphold Roe. And the reason why it took so long to come out is because he was adamant that he was going to keep it in place. He was trying so hard to get one more vote, but just didn't get the vote. So I wanted to play this for you guys, which I think is fascinating. Here we go. Let me put this on screen. All right, so let's watch this.
Unprecedented leak of a draft opinion reversing Roe that may have doomed Roberts' efforts.
New details obtained by CNN reveal the high-stakes internal abortion rights drama that intensified in April when the justices first learned the draft opinion would soon be published. Tensions over the fate of Roe were only heightened by an investigation into the source of the leak that diminished whatever chance Roberts had to dislodge the 5-justice bloc set to overturn the abortion rule.
Joining us to share her fascinating new reporting here is CNN legal analyst Joan Biskupic. Joan, tell us how hard he was fighting to bring some folks over to his side.
Morning, Brianna and John. Extremely hard. He was trying week after week after the initial vote in December, after oral arguments, in which 5 of the justices on the far right voted to overturn Roe. Roberts was alone in the middle, wanting to uphold this Mississippi 15-week ban on abortions, but not go further than Roe. And then, of course, you had the 3 liberals saying, we don't want to do any of this. We don't want to disrupt abortion rights at all. So Roberts keeps trying. And it's interesting, Brianna, that not only did his work affect, his efforts toward the 2 newest justices, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, but it had an effect on the others. The hard right justices became concerned that he could be successful. The chief has himself switched votes in the past, and he has also been able to pick off justices on the far conservative side.
Now, this is thank you, Anti-Commie, for becoming a member. So this is what I think is the most interesting, is that you had 5 justices who wanted to overturn Roe, and the Chief Justice in the middle there, he said, well, I want to keep the foundations of Roe, but I want to move the whole viability thing. Let's move it back. So he wanted to uphold the law. And I think the other 3 Democrats or the other 3 liberals on the court would have also accepted that piece of it if they could have got one more conservative. But the conservatives really held firm and said, no, this is going to be overturned. Now, there's been a lot of confusion on why or how they were able to overturn it. And you'll hear it through all the commentary, right? You'll hear all the commentary always talks about tradition. They said it's not tradition. It's not tradition. So I'm going to give you guys, let me explain to you exactly why Roe was overturned in the way it was. Now, I have a video on it that explains it too, but I want to make it very clear why Roe was overturned and why I'm assuming that eventually when you get the court with the different makeup, it's going to be put back in place. So what I'm going to show to you on the screen now is known as the Palco Test. Now, this test from this case is used when the Supreme Court decides, hey, we want to see if there's a right out there that's fundamental, and we just don't know if the right is fundamental or not. But how do we know? How do we know if there's a protected constitutional right out there that wasn't listed in the Constitution? Well, this is a test that they go for to do it. And abortion was one of those rights that wasn't listed in the Constitution that the court in Roe versus Wade said passed this particular test, the Palco test, to qualify as a protected constitutional right. Let's look at the test real quick. The test for Palco is simply either the principle or the right is so rooted in the tradition and conscience of our people, American people, that it is to be ranked as fundamental. So you look at it from a historical perspective. Or now it could pass that and be good. You got a constitutional right if it passes number 1. Or if it doesn't pass number 1, you look at the or number 2. It's implicit in our concept of the order of liberty. That just means it simply means that you need to exercise this right to exercise a right already in the Constitution. And an example I like to put of this is your right against unlawful search and seizure, unreasonable search and seizure. So the government, the government can't search your stuff without a warrant, reasonable search, and that warrant has to be based on reasonableness. Well, the warrant itself has to be based on probable cause, but it has to be reasonable. Your protection is against unreasonable search and seizures. But in that protection against police being able to search your stuff, there's an inherent right to privacy, right? You have a right to privacy within your effects, and that right to privacy can only be overcome through the warrant process. So the court it's a case called Katz v. New York, but in Katz, the court said you have a right to not only a Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizures, but implicit in that right against government intrusion into your stuff, unreasonable search and seizures, you have an implicit right to privacy, right? And the government can only violate that right to privacy through the same process as getting a warrant. I probably messed that up and made that so confusing, but that's essentially what it is. I need to exercise this right to exercise a right in the Constitution. Now, some people were saying that Roe did not address number 2. It just said the court in Roe just said, okay, it's in the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third. They listed a whole bunch of rights, but didn't attach it to any one of them. So number 2 can be totally overlooked. So we're really looking at number 1. And was the principle rooted in traditions and science? So now I want to do something. I'm going to give you guys the legal arguments that are now working their way in academic circles on why Roe, or the right to abortion, should be upheld. So the conservative court now has said, well, the right to an abortion is not deeply rooted in our traditions, right? And they go back and say, well, when Roe was decided, most states had it illegal. If you go back to the beginning of the Republic, there was always something about it. It looked in common law. He said, yeah, this is never a right. It's not tradition. We're done. All right. That's what they said. But on the second piece of it, they said, well, since it's not tradition and it doesn't pass the Palco test, it's done. We're done. We're not going to keep a right that we can't justify. That's what the conservatives in the court said. We're not going to keep a right that we can't justify based on this traditions. Now, the liberal justices, they make a counter argument to that. And their counter argument is that the conservatives are looking at traditions in a different, in an incorrect manner. Tradition isn't what we did back in the 1800s. Tradition isn't what we did back in the 1700s. Traditions are what people are living through now. So they counter and say that every woman alive today has spent the last 50 years of her life with the constitutional right to enter pregnancy. And now, 50 years later, that right is just gone. So do we look at the 50 years that we've had this constitutional right? Does that apply to tradition, right? Something that we've been doing for 50 years? Does that tradition seems to be ignored? But do we look at tradition from 200 years ago, or do we look at tradition from just, recent tradition, 50 years, 100 years, 75 years ago? So the academic quandary here is, when we talk about tradition, whose tradition are we talking about? And you can definitely see the pushback from each side. One side is saying, well, they wrote the document in 1700s, 1800s, right? So that's what we were talking about, what they thought back then. And then you have another side that says, yeah, but back then we didn't have cars, we didn't have planes. There were certain things that they could have never suspected. The ease and access of abortion now, right? So the law should be written for the people and the people alive today, right? We live in a totally different world than we did 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So the left is saying tradition should be kind of codified in this in the relevant time period. Where everyone alive today, what traditions have we lived in? So do we look further back, or do we look essentially at a concurrent state of mind? So that's the legal effort, and I'm assuming when you get 5 liberals on a court, they're going to take the tradition argument and say 50 years of this being the law is tradition enough to surpass the first prong of the Palco test, right? 50 years of it being the law of the land, 50 years of it itself makes that tradition. And I think when the conservative justices are going to say that 50 years of tradition is not enough. It was not enough to keep Roe in place when it first got into place. And now you can't use that to make it a constitutional right because it was kind of fraudulently put into place at the beginning. Had a legal question for you. How do I contact you? It all depends. I don't give legal advice at all. But if you have just a legal academic question, just either probably the best way is DM me on Twitter. Yeah. So yeah, but I don't answer any question about personal legal issues because that's number one, illegal, and number two is that I just don't know you would have to be licensed in that state, and I'd have to be your lawyer, and unfortunately that doesn't happen. But I can answer hypotheticals, and bar questions, things of that nature. But yeah, I can't give you. I just want to make it very clear. If you ask me a question, I generally ignore those type of questions. If you ask me a question about your specific legal issue, I'm not going to answer it because I can't. I understand legally why it was overturned. However, Roberts' Mississippi law would have been ideal, in my opinion, because it would still allow abortion but eliminate late term. That is legal in many states. Yeah. I agree. I think eventually we're going to get to a place where abortion is legal in the United States. But it's not. What am I saying? I'm saying I think we're going to get back to a place where it's going to be Roe is going to be reinstated. Eventually, we're going to get enough liberals on the court that says this is a right that needs to be inside there, right? And when that happens, we're going to be in the opposite place. So, I think right now people are scared, people are worried, but the legal reasoning behind both is what it is. So now, if you agree with the legal premises, I want to make it very clear: the fight now for Roe is what does tradition mean? Does it mean 1800s, 1700s, early 1900s, or does it mean the last 50 years? That's the fight. That's the academic fight. And in both ways, if you get 5 justices who are liberal, they're going to say the last 50 years. If you get 5 justices who are conservative, they're going to say it goes farther back than that. And I know it's parsing words, and it's sad that a constitutional right that's so important has to essentially be curtailed on something so just these lawyers' interpretation of what tradition means. But that's essentially where we're at. I do want to mention here's a list of some other unwritten rights that the court has found. 1958, the right to travel. 1925, the right. Did you guys know you had a constitutional right to homeschool your children? In Maynard v. Hell, the right to marry was found to be fundamental. Also in Skinner v. Oklahoma, the right to have children, because I think that case was the government was doing 2 things. It was forcing people to be sterilized. So they were like, well, you have a fundamental right, a constitutional right to have children. You have the right to teach your children. You have a right to teach your children other languages. That's another constitutional right in Myers v. Nebraska. Lochner v. New York. This is now if you're a law buff, we all have heard of Lochner. Lochner is if you Google the ghost of Lochner, and you'll see it's the right to contract. And it was one of those times where the court just kind of made up a new right of the whole cloth, and I think people started seeing the true power of the Supreme Court. Because think about it, if the Supreme Court is able to say, hey, here's a new right, give new rights, that's insane. So yeah, so Lochner v. New York was right to contract, and you'll see the ghost of Lochner because it's a interesting decision, but it's given the Supreme Court a lot of problems. Moore v. City of Chicago, you have a constitutional right that your extended family share your home. You also have a constitutional right to have for competent adults to refuse life-saving medical procedures. So these are all the unwritten rights that most people don't even realize they have. but the Supreme Court has been looking through them and saying, yeah, we have, the Supreme Court has been going through all these cases saying you have a fundamental right to this, you have a fundamental right to this, you have a fundamental right to this. And these are constitutionally protected rights. So there's a whole bunch of them. But now, and it's funny because I know people are usually shocked when you go through the list. Britt Commodore you became a member. Thank you. I'm saying, do by the logic, if the Dred Scott case had survived longer, they would have been okay with it because it had 50 years of tradition. Seems illogical. Bad law is bad law and should be overturned. Britt, I agree. I'm just explaining to you the theoretical perspectives because let's not forget too, Dred Scott, they overturned that with a constitutional amendment. The 13th Amendment was Congress and the states overturning Dred Scott. So, so even in that instance, Dred Scott it may be a little different because Dred Scott was overturned with a constitutional amendment. John, the liberal argument seems to me just to stare with a bit of reliance. But in your list, I think there are many equal protection, not substantive process. Oberfeld. Yes. Equal protection. There's equal protection and equal protection definitely, but generally you're talking about them finding you have the right to teach your children whatever language you want. You have a right to raise it. Like those things are 100% substantive due process. Essentially, finding rights and applying them to the states. That's substantive due process. All right. So we've gotten through that piece of it and the Roe v. Wade. So I hope that at least let everyone understand just a little bit more intricacies on the arguments that are going forward with Roe v. Wade. And obviously Congress is trying to pass some law, a federal law, getting us there. But that's essentially what we're doing right now. That's essentially where we're at right now. Oh, thank you, Deborah Tanner for $10. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love this. Yeah, I like to go. Natalie, hey, what's up? I try to go a little deeper into it. So I'm glad you guys enjoy this. So we are now going into another fun story before we get out of here. This is a story I wanted to cover. So well, it's not a fun story. It's a fun story for me, but not a fun story for the person who it's happened to. So I'm going to share this with you guys. This is the pastor, flashy bishop, robbed $400,000 doing a live stream on church live stream, which is crazy. Charlie says, if we have the constitutional right to have children, how does that jive with others having the right to end a pregnancy? Ooh, that's a good question. Well, you have the right to have a child, right? So this is essentially what Charlie's asking about conflicting rights, right? I have the right to do something, you have the right to do something. So a man and a woman have a right to have a child, but that would conflict with a woman's right to not carry that child to term. So generally, when you're talking about conflicting rights, it's, when it comes to abortion, that right of a woman, because essentially there's I hate to say, for lack of a better word, commandeering. Should the state essentially commandeer a woman's body and use it essentially as an incubator? Because that's the argument on the other side. You're commandeering someone's body and saying you're an incubator. You must have this baby. So it's the right of that kind of bodily autonomy versus your right as a man to have the child. So those two rights conflict, and the courts have seem like almost unanimously sided with the right of the woman to have bodily autonomy in abortion cases. But now that's obviously going to be different. But that's generally the way it is. When you have, her right to bodily autonomy and your right to having a child, I think her right to bodily autonomy has trumped essentially every time. So it's a good question. But that's essentially the way I've been seeing it play on the law. Okay, let's not use Scott. Let's use Korematsu, which lasted 40 years. Korematsu's good. That's a very good one. Korematsu. And there's still some law that's bad, but Korematsu's a very good one. And Plessy v. Ferguson. That was another one that was for a long, right? And they could have used that one and say, look, we have a tradition of it, right? So again, I'm not saying the argument's good. I'm not saying the argument's great. This is for Britt. I'm not saying the argument's great. What I'm saying is that's the argument. right? I'm not even saying the other side's argument's good because I think they have something, right? There was no such thing as sterile environments when they first passed these laws, right? And we're looking at tradition in a world that's totally different, right? If I dropped you, Britt, in 1800, you would be living in a totally different world. It would almost be alien to you. So should the decisions made in the 1800s affect the decisions made in 2022? So I think both sides have an argument, but again, it just which side, what outcome. I think people are in, especially when you're talking about this guy, people are more interested in outcomes than they are in the legal reasoning behind it. But I do agree with you, Brett. So let's go to flashy NYC bishop robbed in $400,000 jewelry heist live stream. Now, listen. First, let me show you guys what happened because this is crazy. So this happened here in New York. Now, New York, we've been having a whole bunch of crazy stuff. We're gonna be talking about it tomorrow. We're gonna be showing you a lot of stuff because Rockfin allows us to kind of go a little more crazy. But this, I want to show you guys this video. It's 48 seconds, and this is about this pastor who is getting robbed, who's on a live stream doing this thing and is about to be robbed.
What you about to go through? Yo. All right. Yo, all right.
Everybody stay still. Nobody move. Now look at this guy sitting down here on the side. He just frozen with a Bible in his hand, just watching the whole thing. They robbing the pastor. They're taking all his jewelry, and that's it. So now let me show you the news report to this. This is insane. So that happens, right? Now at first reports it was $400,000 in jewelry, but come to find out it was more than that. So let me show you the news report, which is funny in of itself. So let me show you the original news report of this. Where is it at? I want to show you guys. Oh, I just had it up. Come on. Did I have it? All right, no. Okay, so here is the news report. Boop. And share. StreamYard, you got to make this a little easier. So this is a news report that came out.
Live stream of a religious service yesterday in Brooklyn. Last night we spoke with the bishop, and now his wife is talking about the experience. As CBS 2's Lisa Rosner reports, police now say jewelry worth around $1 million was taken.
Now, before I get into this, let's say I'm running a church and I'm going there every Sunday with $1 million worth of jewelry on. $1 million worth of jewelry. No security, no guns in the place, doors wide open, and I'm going there every Sunday with $1 million worth of jewelry on. $1 million worth of jewelry. That's putting everybody in that church at risk. Now, just about like when we went to Comic-Con, they had like $30,000 on the floor. They had like 4 armed security for the $30,000 on the floor. This guy has $1 million worth of jewelry, him and his wife on. Wow. It's insane.
The moment Bishop Lamar Whitehead abruptly stopped his sermon Sunday.
All right.
Police say 3 men entered the second-floor church space on Remsen Avenue in Canarsie. The bishop dropped to the ground, and the church live stream shows one man with a gun on the bishop and another removing his jewelry. Off camera, his wife, Bishop Asia Whitehead, says a gun was also held to her 8-month-old Brooklyn, who was in her arms. She says that was happening while the suspect removed items, including her wedding ring and Episcopal jewelry.
As a mother, as a wife, and just myself personally.
But now, before I get into what she's saying, I got to say one thing. This was like like how easy could this be for a robbery? Like if you're sitting at home and you're like, you know what, we need some money. What's the easiest way we can rob someone for the most amount of money? Let's go to these people. Let's go to this fool's church. No security, right? We pull out our guns. We're the only person in the place with guns. Jewelry's all there for the taking. It's like taking candy from a baby. And on top of that, when people hit the floor, since we're in a church, people are going to think they're praying, right? Oh, look at all these people are praying, right? And we're standing up above them with our hands raised, and they're giving tithing to us, giving us their money. Looks like a regular church service to me from the outside, right? So, so it's like they were easy marks. And somebody just put two and two together, was like, yo, this flashy guy, he's got millions of dollars worth of jewelry on, and ain't nobody in there. Let's go get that money. Especially now. Am I being crazy? It just makes sense that if you're wearing that, if you have millions of let's not even make it jewelry. Let's say $1 million cash in there. Do you think somebody's not going to put two and two together and say, there's $1 million in cash in there? Let's just go grab that thing. It just, why not have security? I don't know. They were easy targets.
In general, it's one of the most traumatic experiences that I've ever been involved in.
Of course.
My priority was to secure my children, not only to secure them physically, but to secure my babies emotionally, to secure them mentally.
She says their 14-year-old daughter, Heaven, was also there and says she's okay. Right after the heist, the live stream shows frazzled congregants trying to leave. Police sources say there were 25 parishioners. Police sources tell us there was no security at the time. Monday, the bishop said he will bring in a therapist for the congregation, and he's giving the NYPD $50,000 to go towards information leading to finding the suspects.
Let the Holy Spirit arrest them. Let the Holy Spirit, come on, do something in their mind that would prompt them to want to change their life.
So they go every week with $1 million worth of jewelry on. She's got $500,000. He's got $500,000. No security. Stacey said, baby got a pearl pacifier. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. No one should be robbing anybody. Obviously, no one should be robbing these people. It's ridiculous that you have to even go through this. But I'm assuming people would be smart enough to say, well, if I have $1 million worth of stuff in here, I need some security, right? If you can afford $1 million worth of jewelry, you should be able to afford $20,000 worth of security, right? At least I'm thinking about it. I spelled pacifier wrong. Britt says, don't worry, Nate. Churches are safe spaces. Gun control people tell us we don't need to protect ourselves while there. Yeah. Well, I think, this is, this pastor, he's been making some serious money. So here she is talking to the pastor.
Sunday, Bishop Whitehead told us he does not take a salary from the church, and he believes his family was targeted because of the publicity he received back in May when he showed up in a Fendi suit to help turn in the suspect wanted in the fatal subway shooting of 48-year-old Daniel Enriquez.
The media called me the bling bling bishop.
The NYPD says the suspects fled on foot and got into a white Mercedes-Benz. Fortunately, no one was injured. In Canarsie, Brooklyn, Lisa Rosner, CBS.
Now, one thing though, they got into a white Mercedes-Benz. I think this was a professional hit job. I think this was a professional job, right? They exit strategy, white Mercedes, you're in, you're out. Now everybody's looking for white Mercedes. It's probably stolen. You get in, you get out. Bishop Bling Bing, he's got $1 million. You know where he's at. And let's look at, and also, I want to go back because look at the church. I'm gonna put this back on screen. I'm gonna scroll this back and look at the church, where the church is at. She's gonna be standing in front of the church. So this door is supposedly going into the church stuff. You got upstairs and the side door. So when these doors are closed, you really can't see inside there. So if you're in there with people who are trying to rob you, you're alone inside this spot. It's done. You're done, right? So what can you do, right? It just is what it is. So the bishop, just so everybody understands, I want to make sure the bishop says that his money comes from somewhere else. He doesn't get it from the church. He has a Rolls Royce. He said they said they do a lot in real estate. How compelling is this? I don't really know. Obviously, I think if you're going to church, splashing $1 million jewelry, it's one thing. And from my thoughts, I always thought Jesus was for the poor. The meek shall inherit the earth. A bling bling pastor, with $1 million worth of jewelry, seems to be kind of antithetical to the Christianity that I know. But again, everybody has their different interpretations of it. But I don't know. Is this like the new Christianity now? Where pastors they got private jets. This guy's got millions of dollars in jewelry. Is that like the new Christianity nowadays? Like that's what people are following? The more money, more problems. I don't know. I'm saying inside job, steal the jewelry, collect the insurance, have the jewelry remade. Well, I don't know. How would your insurance company handle this stuff? Because generally, the reason why you have that backup security is because the insurance company would say, you can't walk around with $1 million worth of jewelry and we're going to insure it, right? That doesn't make any sense. So maybe you're right. Maybe the insurance company did, but that's that this is almost. If I was the insurance company, I wouldn't be looking to pay. I'd be like, you didn't have any security there, and you got $1 million. No. But Britt may be right. So, what do you guys think about this pastor? Do you guys think the pastor, do you guys think the pastor should have been blinged out with $1 million worth of jewelry? I don't know. It just seems so weird to me. But what can you say? And even if he's not getting this from the church, or even this is personal proceeds, why? I don't. Maybe I got to watch his sermons. What's the reason for showing off that much money, showing off that you have that lavish lifestyle? That God has blessed you, maybe, and that if you're substantially as righteous, maybe I don't know. But we have a lot of. I don't know if you guys heard the prosperity gospel, in which you give them money and they live these lavish lifestyles, and the more money you give them, the more money you're supposed to get back. I'm not sure if this guy was there, but it is what it is. So, listen, thank you guys so much for being with me on our first members only chat live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We went through some very, very interesting stories. Amber Heard appeal. We looked at the abortion issue again for Roe v. Wade, and we saw the issue with the pastor getting robbed. Now, all these videos are probably going to be cut into smaller segments for members who haven't seen it and for this general public. So if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a like, share, subscribe. Again, we really appreciate the members. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing our Rockfin stream. So we're going to start here in half an hour. We're going with some interesting stories again in the morning. About a half hour in, we're going to switch to Rockfin, and where we can look at some of these other stories that I pulled up. One is we have the chief of police in Mississippi. He was going around saying that he was happy that he had shot some people. So he was fired. And we'll look at that. We're also going to look at a story coming out of New York where there was a hit and run driver. Someone was hit by a car. The people get out the car, rob the person, drive away, then come back and rob the person for a second time while the person's lying on the street after being hit by the car. We're going to see that video tomorrow when we're on Rockfin. So join me tomorrow about the same time, about 10 o'clock, and we will make it happen. So for everyone who's here, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. My name is Nate the Lawyer. Peace. In broadcast.